Joining me now is Missouri Senator Eric Schmitt, a member of the Senate Armed Services, Joint Economic Commerce and Science and Transportation Committees. Senator, it's great to see you. Thanks very much for being here. And you were in that courtroom yesterday. Tell us what you witnessed firsthand.
Well, I think the first thing, Maria, it's good to be back with you. The first thing is just it was surreal sitting in that courtroom. You know, this is the United States of America. And to see this kind of lawfare play out in real time is very disturbing. I mean, what all of these cases, but certainly this case represent, is the Democrats' effort to interfere in the election, to try to preoccupy Trump, or actually take them at their word, throw the leading contender for president of the United States in jail for the rest of his life. I mean, this is banana republic stuff that you see other places in the world. It's truly unprecedented for this thing to be happening in the United States of America. These charges are baseless. They haven't proven a crime, but they've kept President Trump in that courtroom for going on 6 weeks now. So I don't think they've proven their case. The jury gets it next week, so they will have closing arguments next week. It'll be submitted to the jury, and we'll find out from there. But this case should have never been brought in. Alvin Bragg essentially ran on trying to get Trump. And I think it's just a very dangerous road to go down for our republic.
I mean, some of the snippets that we've heard about include when Michael Cohen was on the stand and he admitted that he stole money from Trump. He stole $60,000 from the Trump organization, or the way that Judge Marchand, took it out on Robert Costello, clearing the press from the room. I mean, these seem to me like really stunning moments in the trial. Are there things that you can tell us about that you witnessed that happened, that you actually watched that were stunning to you?
Yeah, so I mean, I think for me, a couple of things. You hit the nail on the head last week with Michael Cohen on the stand. Look, their whole case relies on his testimony. He has literally lied and perjured himself to every branch of government. He's a totally discredited witness. That their theory relies solely on his testimony. And so I think that's, again, even before you get to anything else, Michael Cohen has disgraced himself and doesn't move this case forward. But an example yesterday was there was an email that was presented to the witness Costello by the prosecution. He was asked to talk about the email when President Trump's lawyer came up and asked about that same email for him to further expound on it in the context surrounding it. There was an objection. And the judge sustained the objection to literally ask about a document that the prosecution had already proffered to ask the witness about. So that was, I mean, I don't understand that. So I think there's certainly a lot of grounds for appeal here. But my hope is it doesn't get there, that the jury recognizes this for what it is, which is a overtly political prosecution. And I think, Maria, the other aspect of this, I think when you look at the polling, the American people see this for what it is. Yeah. They're rejecting it. They don't want to see this country turn into like a Soviet-style show trial, which is what I saw yesterday. Yeah,
and I'm wondering how closely the Supreme Court is watching this as well as they decide and debate the idea of immunity or some kind of immunity for President Trump. But I'm with Jonathan Fahey this morning, former federal prosecutor, and we keep hearing things like this about the judge, that every time the prosecution objected, the defense, the judge said, yes, okay, sustained. Not the case for when the Trump team objected.
Yeah, it does seem, at least from the reporting, that very inconsistent standards. It seemed like Stormy Daniels had incredible leeway in her testimony, and then when it's witnesses, Robert Costello or other like cross-examinations, the Trump team is being reined in. And my experience, and I'm sure Senator Schmitt knows as well, usually there's a lot of leeway given on cross-examination, but apparently not to the Trump team, which again, we already have an appearance of, politicization. I'd love to ask Senator Schmitt, in any context, as an attorney general in Missouri or anything else, have you ever seen a greater abuse of prosecutorial power, not just in political, but in any context whatsoever?
I haven't. I think, again, that's part of, I mean, look, as the former AG and prosecutor, like a lot of the things that don't get reported on are the cases that you don't bring, right? It requires judgment and a cool-headedness about what the law is, what the facts are, and actually bringing the case forward. But here, when your objective, as it is for Alvin Bragg, is to get Trump, or to try to, throw him in jail so he can't be president. That is the real threat to democracy. You hear Democrats talk about this all the time, about how President Trump's a threat to democracy. They are literally bulldozing all of the norms, all of the rules, these laws that are meant to protect people's individual rights because they're afraid that Donald Trump's going to win again. And again, that's so dangerous. That is what dictators do all around the world since the beginning of time, but certainly now to this day. America is supposed to stand apart from that. But when you have prosecutors like Alvin Bragg moving cases like this forward based on exclusively the testimony of a known liar, it certainly raises a lot of questions and very concerning for the country.
Yeah, a very similar sentiment that we heard yesterday from Alan Dershowitz, who was in the courtroom with a front row seat the day before. Watch this.
I've rarely seen so many lies. He swears under oath that he would not have accepted a pardon. He wouldn't have accepted a pardon. He had already told Costello he would do anything to avoid going to prison. Lie, cheat, steal, do anything, but he wouldn't have accepted a pardon from Donald Trump. That was such a clear lie. And then the judge refuses to grant the motion saying, well, if Cohen lied, you got 12 New Yorkers here. 12 New Yorkers will see through the lies. Not if the 12 New Yorkers desperately want to make sure that Trump doesn't run for president, doesn't become president. So the judge is abdicating his responsibility. He should grant an acquittal. This case should never go to the jury. There's nothing to the case. It's the weakest case I've seen in 60 years of teaching, practicing, and writing about criminal law.
That's a pretty extraordinary statement from Alan Dershowitz. Did you get a chance to size up the jury, Senator? Do you think that the jury will be fair to Trump?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because as a former prosecutor, in my eyes, I was watching the jury a lot and how they react to certain things. And so it's very difficult, I think, for me in one day in a snapshot.
Okay.
This has gone over to get a sense of that. But my hope is that, again, you have Costello's testimony yesterday, which further discredited Cohen, but Cohen discredited himself. And by the way, the only crime that's been exposed in this trial is his crime of stealing $60,000 from the Trump organization. I mean, that came out, which I think was a bit of a bombshell that again, further amplifies how not credible he is. And again, you have to remember, I think people are going to get lost in what this whole thing was about, that they have to show criminal intent, that he, in this business records case, to cover up an underlying crime that they've not articulated. Right. And by the way, the defense was denied the opportunity to have an expert talk about the fact that this wasn't even an FEC violation anyway. So it's, again, you go in circles on this thing, it's a nightmare.
I'm still wondering, though, why Trump is risking a gag order violation. He comes out every night, he talks to the president, and I recognize he's got a gag order, he's in the middle of an election, he can't even campaign, but he launched a tirade against one of the lead prosecutors, referring to him as a representative of the White House. Watch this.
Let me just tell you that the White House is the person or the group, whatever. They're the one trying this case. You heard who was doing all the talking. Representative from the White House. Just recently. This is all about Biden can't campaign, so he's trying to injure his opponent. They're trying to hurt the opponent because they can't win it fair and square. It's lawfare. There are a lot of terms for it. It's a third world country way of campaigning. Why don't you look at the person that argued their case, almost the entire case? Look at the person. Where did he come from? Unbelievable. He came from Biden.
Senator, have you spoken with President Trump about why he keeps doing that? Because this judge wants to put him in jail.
Well, I did get a chance to visit with President Trump yesterday, but listen, I think he's right. I think he's right. This is lawfare.
He may be right.
This is lawfare. But Maria, I think it's also important to point out, he has First Amendment rights. Gag orders traditionally in criminal cases are meant to protect the defendant.
Yeah.
That's what they're there for. So I think it's an unconstitutional gag order. But again, I think that drawing the line here, the direct line, which all of us should be doing back to the White House on this coordinated effort, again, to get Trump is a real thing. I mean, Jack Smith, who was handpicked, down in Atlanta, the same thing as what's happened in Washington, D.C. This is a very coordinated effort. And I think they thought it was going to work, Maria, but I think it's backfired because the people see it.
Well, Fani Willis just won her primary in Georgia, so we'll be watching that as well. Senator, it's good to see you this morning. Thank you, sir.